Path 13. The High Priestess. The path connecting Kether and Tifereth, or the Father and the Son, is associated with the High Priestess card. On the Kabbalah, the High Priestess sits between the pillars of severity and mercy. She represents the bride, the Ecclesia Spiritualis, known as the spiritual body of believers, or the invisible church that is being made without hands. The pillars are labeled with a B for Boaz and a J for Yakin. Boaz and Yakin represent the entrance to King Solomon's temple. The veil behind the high priestess is the entrance to the holiest of holies, where the Ark of the Covenant, which means the Ten Commandments, or the two-edged sword, the staff of Moses, the cup, and the manna, or pentacles, was stored. And it is where God's Shekinah, or the indwelling spirit, dwelt in the physical temple. The veil has pomegranates, which are also references in the Song of Songs, in the shape of a Kabbalistic tree of life. She holds the Torah in her hands and wears a cross. Her headdress displays the phases of the moon, and the moon is the feminine reflection of the sun, or male principle. In the Wisdom of Solomon, the woman wisdom is referred to as a mirror of God. The theosophies both of Kabbalah and alchemy include the union of opposites as one of their central themes, with the male, or active polarity, being on the left side when looking at it, and the female, or contemplative, on the right. At the center of the Kabbalah is the cross of Christ at Tifereth, which is what the cross on the high priestess alludes to. The solar cross can also be viewed as a plus sign, B plus J, or the union of the two pillars or polarities. The tale of Boaz and Ruth was one of the few love stories in the Bible, and he redeemed Ruth as a foreshadowing of the Messiah, redeeming the bride, or the church. The high priestess represents the secret temple, or an evolved state of the bride of the Messiah. The pillars are also related to King David as Boaz and King Solomon as Yakin, who were the planners and builders of the temple. Boaz is from the tribe of Judah, which is in the line of the Messiah, and Yakin was a descendant of Simeon, who rescued his sister. Images of lilies and pomegranates were used in the design of the temple, and are also found in the Song of Solomon, which is associated with the spirit of wisdom. Climbing up the middle pillar of the Kabbalah through pathworking, one would first encounter the World card, which represents the Shekinah with the four living creatures on the corners, and the wreath of purity around the bride. Continuing up the middle pillar, the path will lead to the Sephir of Yesod, which means foundation, which represents the chemical wedding taking place, and the soul of the seeker joining with the Shekinah, who will begin the great work within the person. Yesod is associated with the moon, or Shekinah, which means female polarity, and Tifereth with the sun, or Christ, which is the male polarity. Between the two Sephirot is the Temperance card, which represents the balancing of the male and the female polarities, and the process of the great work taking place within the alchemist. Tifereth represents Yeshua's death on the cross, which was a central aspect of God's plan of salvation. Those who understand the mystery of Christ will advance on the High Priestess card, which represents an evolved state of the bride. The High Priestess is the secret temple, where all believers become one with God, through Christ, or Tifereth, with the aid of the Shekinah. Within the body of Christ, or church, or the Ecclesia Spiritualis, there is neither male or female, Jew or Gentile, slave or free, because all are one. The High Priestess card also references the moon, or the female polarity, in her headdress, and she has the moon at her feet, which is also related to the Kabbalah. On the path of the Kabbalah between Tifereth, Christ, and Kether, heaven and God, is the woman clothed with the sun with the moon at her feet, described in the book of Revelations 12:1. The woman is the Shekinah, or woman wisdom, Proverbs 8:12, divided into her different roles. The Empress card shows her with the crown of 12 stars, in the idealized state of the Shekinah. The High Priestess card, with the moon at her feet, shows the results of her transforming efforts within the souls of believers, and the Strength card shows her role in the birth of the Messiah. The High Priestess sits in front of the veil to the holiest of holies, and she holds the Torah. The scroll of the Torah is partially veiled, because only those indwelt by the Spirit of truth can finally understand the Scriptures. As discussed previously, the illustration of the High Priestess coincides with Wyatt's description of the Shekinah in relation to the mystery of the sex in the secret doctrine of Israel, a study on the Zohar and its connections. In the pictorial key to the tarot, Wyatt wrote that the High Priestess was really the secret church, the house of witches of God and man. She represents also the second marriage of the prince, who is no longer of this world. She is the spiritual bride and mother, the daughter of the stars, and the higher Garden of Eden. She is, in fine, the queen of the borrowed light, or moon. But this is the light of all. The High Priestess within the Rider-Waite deck, the Shekinah of the Kabbalah, and her depiction on the card are directly related to the tree of the Sephiroth. The 13th path of wisdom is associated with the Hebrew letter Gimel, which means camel or benefactor. The Sefer Yetzirah lists Gimel as one of the 7 double letters and connects it with the duality of wealth and poverty. Wisdom offers true riches, which go far beyond the value of money. Like a camel, she carries her rider across the desert and leads the initiate through life. She is associated with the mother, the moon, and intuition. She is also associated with the Church of Pergamum, which remained loyal to the faith and was promised the hidden manna and a white stone. The intelligence listed in the 32 paths of wisdom associated with the 13th path is uniting. The text reads, "The 13th path is named the uniting intelligence, and is so called because it is itself the essence of glory. It is the consummation of truth and individual spiritual things." The Shekinah is the uniting principle who seals one's soul for redemption. She is the spirit of truth and the indwelling glory. The spirit of wisdom unites with the soul of the initiate and then works within him or her to accomplish the great work. She builds the living stones into a sanctuary and prepares the bride for the wedding feast of the Lamb.